I was fired on Christmas Eve. And my boss smiled while he did it like he expected me to say thank you. Emily, he said, tapping the edge of the table. This won't take long. That was how Daniel Hargreave always started when he wanted control. Calm voice, no witnesses, no time to think. He didn't ask me to sit. He didn't need to. We're restructuring, he continued. It's nothing personal. Honestly, think of it as a gift. You're free now. He slid a folder toward me. I opened it. Termination effective immediately, dated December 24th. I looked up. On Christmas Eve, Daniel shrugged. Timing happens. Then he placed another document on top of the first, separate. Intentional. And this, he said, lighter now, is just paperwork. Transfer of system ownership. Sign it tonight and we part cleanly. I didn't touch the pen. You want me to give up authorship? I said. It was built on company time. It was built by me. His smile thinned. Emily, don't make this difficult. I'm not signing. The room changed, not loudly, just enough. Daniel leaned forward. Refusing to cooperate will affect how this ends. I'm already fired. Yes, he said. But you don't get to take anything with you. He pressed his phone screen once. It? Revoke her access. All of it. I felt the cutoff like a physical thing. Email, credentials, internal tools. Gone. Security will escort you out, Daniel said. Let's keep this professional. At my desk, I didn't argue. I took my coat, my notebook. One photo. That was it. As we passed the warehouse corridor, a sharp alarm sounded brief. Then another, somewhere behind the walls. Something stopped moving. Keep going, the guard muttered. The doors shut behind me. My phone vibrated immediately. Once, twice. Then it didn't stop. The story you're about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at Her Revenge. It is inspired by real workplace power dynamics. But all characters, companies, and events are fictionalized to explore themes of control, authorship, and consequence. I stood in the parking lot, cold air biting my hands, watching the screen light up again and again. I still didn't answer, not yet. The first time I realized what my job was really worth. It was during a holiday surge 3 years earlier. The warehouse had been choking for hours, orders stacking, robots hesitating, drivers waiting for instructions that never came. Daniel hadn't called me then. He never did when things were quiet. It was Maya from night operations who found me in the hallway. Emily, she said, breathless. Routing logic is looping. We're bleeding time. I know, I said. Show me where it froze. 10 minutes later, we were standing shoulder to shoulder at her terminal. She watched my screen, fingers hovering like she was afraid to interrupt. If I reroute now, the Eastern queue clears, I said. But only if escalation rules don't kick in? They will, she said. They always do. Not if I change the trigger, she frowned. Can you do that? I already did. The system stabilized. Green lights returned, one by one. The surge passed before dawn. Later that morning, Daniel stopped by my desk. He didn't sit. Good work last night, he said quietly. You saved us. I waited. He glanced around, lowered his voice further. Don't make a big deal out of it. Let leadership handle the narrative. At the executive meeting that afternoon, he presented the recovery as a process improvement. My name never came up. Afterward, one of the directors passed me in the corridor. It held up well, he said, smiling. Nice support. They never saw the decisions, the thresholds, the fail-safes that chose between speed and safety when everything was under pressure. They saw dashboards, not judgment. I understood something then that I hadn't wanted to admit. To them, I wasn't a person with authority. I was a structure, useful, replaceable, silent. So when Daniel called my firing a fresh start, I knew it wasn't sudden. It was the end of a long calculation where my value had been reduced to a line item, and my work mistaken for something they could simply take. By the time my phone buzzed again in my coat pocket, I already knew why they were calling. By the time I got home, the house felt smaller than it usually did. I dropped my keys on the counter and left my phone face down beside them. It buzzed anyway, rattling against the wood like it was impatient with me. I didn't pick it up. I poured a glass of water and leaned against the counter, staring at nothing in particular. My mind kept replaying Daniel's voice, just paperwork. The way he'd said it, like authorship was something you could erase with a signature. I turned the phone over. 7 missed calls already. All from the office. If I warn them, I said out loud. They'll say I caused it. The room didn't argue. I thought about the second document again, the one he'd slid forward after the termination letter, the transfer clause buried in the middle, the urgency in his eyes when I hesitated. Signed tonight. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message. Maya. No Ethan. Junior engineer. Quiet kid. Smart. Nervous around executives. Ethan. They're locked out of the core controls. Ethan Daniel told IT to override. Ethan, I think that's a bad idea. I stared at the screen longer than I meant to. I typed, stop them. Then I deleted it. If I stepped in now, they'd call it cooperation. They'd say I was still responsible. They'd say I'd agreed. Another message came in. Ethan, Emily, Ethan. They're doing something risky. I set the phone down gently this time, like it might break if I wasn't careful. I don't work there anymore, I said quietly. As if the words needed practice, the buzzing stopped. For a moment, there was only silence, not peace, just the absence of noise before something gives way. I stayed where I was, hands flat on the counter, breathing evenly, waiting for the night to decide what it was going to take from them first. I didn't see it happen, I heard it. My phone lit up on the counter, not with calls this time, but with voice messages piling on top of one another. I didn't open them. The live feed Maya had once given me access to was still cached on my tablet. I hadn't shut it off. I told myself it was habit. The first thing that froze wasn't the system. It was a robot arm. Maya's voice cut through the audio feed, sharp and too loud. Why did it stop? It didn't finish the pic. Another voice answered, higher, panicked. It didn't error out, it just stopped. Restart it. We did. A pause. Then someone else. A supervisor I recognized by tone but not name. Conveyor 3 is backing up. If that line stalls, we lose the bay. Do something, Maya said. Now. Keys clattered. Commands were spoken out loud, like saying them made them more real. Manual override, a man said. I'm pushing manual. Wait, Maya snapped. You don't have the sound changed. A sharp tone cut through the chatter, then another, then 3 at once. What did you just do? Someone shouted. I followed procedure. That wasn't procedure, Maya said. That was escalation. The screen flickered. The warehouse map went from scattered green to solid yellow, then red. All bays are locked, a voice said quietly. Why are all bays locked? Another alarm joined the first. Louder, insistent. Kill the alerts, the supervisor ordered. We can't, the IT voice said. The system's not accepting commands. Maya leaned into the camera, her face pale. It's protecting itself. That doesn't make sense, the supervisor said. We own it. The answer didn't come from anyone on the floor. It came from the silence between commands, from the way every attempt made things worse. Everything's frozen, someone whispered, even the backup paths. I shut off the feed. My phone buzzed again, harder this time, vibrating across the counter. I didn't touch it. I already knew what had happened. The moment they tried to force their way in, the system had done exactly what it was designed to do. It stopped listening. I turned my phone face up. The screen was a wall of red. Missed calls stacked so tightly the names blurred together. 47 attempts. Some from numbers I knew, some I didn't. Daniel's name appeared the most. I scrolled through the voicemails without opening them. The timestamps told the story well enough. Calm at first, then faster, then desperate. I tapped his number and put the phone to my ear. He answered on the first ring. Finally. His voice was sharp, stripped of the holiday tone he'd used earlier. You need to come back. Now. I don't work there, I said. You walked out in the middle of an incident, he snapped. You caused this. I didn't touch anything. You built the system, Daniel said. That makes it your responsibility. No, I said. That made it my job. You ended that. There was a pause. I could hear other voices behind him. A door closed. Someone whispered his name. Emily. He said, slower now. Stop being difficult. We have trucks stalled. Bays locked. People standing around waiting for instructions that aren't coming. You revoked my access. I said, you ordered it? You're being technical. I'm being accurate. His breath came out hard. Come back and fix it. We'll talk about everything else after. Talk about what I asked. The paper you wanted me to sign after you fired me, silence. Then his voice dropped. If you don't cooperate, legal will get involved. They already are, I said. Mine. Another voice cut in on his end. Urgent. Daniel. The secondary cues just went red. He covered the receiver. I heard him hiss something I couldn't make out. Emily, he said again. You're making this worse. I didn't break anything, I said. You did. That's not how this is going to look. It already looks exactly like this. I ended the call before he could respond. The phone rang again immediately. I let it. Then again. Then a different number. I set the phone down on the counter and stepped back. For the first time that night, the noise wasn't coming from my end anymore. The email arrived just after 1 a.m. It wasn't from Daniel this time. It came from the company's legal department, flagged urgent, written in a tone meant to sound calm while doing damage. You are hereby notified that your actions may constitute willful interference with company operations. I read it once, then again. They accused me of withholding access, of causing disruption, of exposing the company to loss. The message ended with a deadline and a threat: cooperate immediately or face consequences. I forwarded it to my attorney without comment. Her reply came back less than 5 minutes later. Do not respond, she wrote. I will. Another message followed. This one shorter. All access attempts are being logged. That was it. One sentence. No explanation. My phone rang again. Not Daniel. An unfamiliar number. I answered. Emily, a man said, breathless. This is Mark. Corporate compliance. Go on, I said. We need to clear something up, he said. Our IT team is trying to regain control of the system, and they're running into blocks that shouldn't exist. They exist, I said. They're triggering alerts, he pressed, external ones. That would be because they're not authorized. Silence. I heard him cover the receiver. When he came back, his voice had changed, lower, careful. Are you saying every attempt is recorded? Yes. And those records, they belong to you. They belong to the system, I said. I designed it that way. He exhaled slowly. Emily, they're trying everything. Manual overrides. Backdoor credentials. Someone even suggested cloning. Tell them to stop, I said. Every failed attempt makes this worse. They won't listen, he said. They think speed matters more than risk. It always does, I said, until it doesn't. The call ended without goodbye. I sat at the kitchen table, hands folded, listening to my phone light up and go dark again. Somewhere across the city, people were typing commands they didn't understand, forcing doors that were never meant to open from their side. They weren't fixing a problem anymore. They were creating a record. The message came at 1:42 in the morning. Not a call, not a threat, a text. Let's reset, it read. Consulting arrangement, immediate compensation, full discretion. A second message followed before I could lock the screen. Name your rate. We just need this stabilized. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of the paper they'd tried to force me to sign. Just money and silence, offered like a shortcut. I read it once, then set the phone down. It buzzed again. We can wire the first payment tonight, the message added. $200,000 for emergency support. We'll formalize later. I picked up the phone and typed one line. Merry Christmas. I didn't add punctuation. I didn't add context. I sent it and turned the phone face down. It rang immediately. I watched it light up. The number unfamiliar. The prefix local. Executive switchboard. Someone higher than Daniel. Someone who didn't usually have to ask. I answered. Emily, a man said, controlled. Careful. This is Richard Hale. I sit on the board. I know who you are, I said. We're past the point of misunderstanding, he said. I want to be clear. We are prepared to make this right. Right how? I asked. Your terms, he said, within reason. You already decided what was reasonable, I said, tonight, in that room. There was a pause. Papers shifting, a door closing. Daniel made a mistake. Richard said he made several. I replied. We need the system online, he said. People are standing around warehouses waiting for instructions. Clients are calling. This is escalating. It already escalated, I said. You just didn't notice until it was loud. Another pause. Then, quieter. What do you want? I leaned back in my chair. The house still. The night unmoved. Not tonight, I said. You'll hear from my attorney in the morning. I ended the call before he could speak again. The phone stayed silent after that. For the first time all night, No one was trying to buy what they'd already lost. They didn't ask me to come in as an employee. That was the first thing that changed. The invitation came through my attorney just after 8 in the morning. Emergency board session. Immediate attendance requested. No badge, no escort, no HR. When I entered the room, Daniel was already there. He didn't look at me. The chairman, Richard Hale, sat at the head of the table. He didn't waste time. "We have a timeline," he said. "Emails, access logs, recorded instructions." Daniel finally spoke. "She sabotaged the system." My attorney slid a folder across the table without looking at him. "These are the messages sent to my client after her termination, including the document demanding immediate transfer of authorship." Richard flipped pages. His jaw tightened. "Daniel," he said, "did you authorize IT to bypass authentication controls after revoking her access?" Daniel hesitated. "We needed continuity." "That wasn't the question," Richard said. "Yes," Daniel said finally, "I did." The head of IT cleared his throat. "For the record," he said, "we do not control the core logic. We never have. We interface with it." "Meaning," Richard said. "Meaning we can't restore service without her authorization," he replied. "Every attempt to do so without it has been logged externally." The room went quiet. Richard turned to me. "Emily, you are not here to explain yourself. You're here because this ends when you say it does." I nodded once. "These are my conditions," I said. "First, Daniel is removed from any role involving operational authority, effective immediately." Daniel stood up. "You can't sit," Richard said. "Second," I continued, "any future access is governed by a separate contract, not employment, no implied ownership, full audit rights." "And third," Richard said, "I don't respond to pressure." I said, "All communication goes through counsel." Richard exhaled. "Agreed." Daniel was escorted out before I signed anything. When the door closed, Richard looked at me again. "We should have listened earlier. You chose not to," I said. I signed one document, not the one they'd tried to force on me. When I stood to leave, the system was still down. That was the point. Daniel was removed before noon, not reassigned, not put on leave. Security walked him out while the board's statement was still being drafted. By the time the notice went internal, his access had already been severed cleaner than mine had been the night before. Richard called me from the conference room. "We're absorbing the penalties," he said. "Delayed shipments, contract fines, customer credits. It's ugly. I warned you it would be." I said. He didn't argue. "Accounting estimates the exposure in the low 7 figures by the end of the day." "Then stop trying to fix it the wrong way," I said. "You're paying twice every minute you hesitate." There was a pause, then papers shifting. "The contract your attorney sent," Richard said. "We accept the structure. Read the access clause again," I replied. "We did," he said. "External control, independent audits, no implied ownership." "And the termination language? Non-retaliation," he said, binding. I arrived at the building without a badge. They opened the doors for me anyway, not ceremoniously, precisely. In the operations room, the screens were still red. Maya stood off to the side, arms crossed, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. She looked up when she saw me. "They won't touch anything," she said. "They're waiting." "Good," I told her. Richard slid the contract across the table. I read it once, then again. It said exactly what it needed to say and nothing more. I signed. I opened my laptop, connected through my own channel, and restored authorization. The screens shifted in sequence yellow to green, line by line. The room exhaled. A supervisor whispered, "It's back." I closed the laptop. By the time the press release went out, the narrative was set: leadership failure, operational oversight, corrective action taken. Daniel's name appeared once, then disappeared entirely. As I left, Richard stopped me at the door. "We should have done this years ago," he said. I didn't slow down. "You chose cheaper instead," outside. My phone buzzed with a final update from legal. The transfer had cleared. The terms were locked. The system would run again, this time with its boundaries respected. Some costs you pay once. Others keep charging interest until someone finally reads the fine print. The public announcement went out before lunch. It called the outage a leadership failure. It said corrective action had been taken. It promised stability moving forward. Daniel's name appeared once, buried in a paragraph about accountability, then vanished from every internal channel. Mine was never mentioned at all. That was fine. My terms were, Richard called later that afternoon. We've implemented the access controls exactly as written. He said, no exceptions. Good, I replied. We'll route all requests through council, he added. As agreed. Then we're done, I said. I never went back to my old desk. No farewell email, no quiet walk through the floor. The company didn't need my presence, only my authorization, which now came with boundaries they could not cross. On Christmas morning, my phone buzzed once, not a call, a system confirmation, green across the board. I typed a single message and sent it to the executive thread that had once tried to buy my silence. Merry Christmas. No one replied. Later, I met Maya for coffee. She looked rested for the first time in days. They're different now, she said. Careful, slower. They should be, I said. She hesitated. Do you miss it? I thought about the nights I'd stayed late, the fixes no one saw, the credit that never came. No, I said. I miss being respected. I have that now. She smiled. You always did. I walked away knowing I hadn't taken revenge. I hadn't humiliated anyone publicly or demanded a victory lap. I had done something quieter and harder. I reclaimed authorship over what I built and refused to let urgency steal it from me again. If your value only appears when you are gone, it was never truly recognized, so protect what you create, set your terms early, and never trade authorship for approval.